Non-Americans of Reddit, what's the biggest story in your country right now? Slovakia, a journalist and his fiancée were murdered in their own house. He was working on an expose about the Italian mafia meddling with our politicians. Nationwide protests. Core politicians stepping down in response. More of the evidence is coming out. Journalists are working nationwide to bring his legacy to light. Newest prime minister seems even worse than what we already had. Generally, not a good time to be a Slovak or Slovak politician right about now. Biggest story in the Czech Republic right now as well. Even though it has virtually nothing to do with us. Only the massive incompetence of the city government of Prague is getting an equal amount of media coverage. Senegal, several kids have been murdered and decapitated in different towns by unknown persons. This type of thing does not happen here. Senegalese person chiming in, he's right. Our country is pretty tame when it comes to violence and killings. This is really out of the ordinary, but may have a correlation to the Casamance shootings. Maybe the same groups. Removed. Italy just made the elections. The two main parties, who for months have talked badly about each other, are about to ally themselves to make the government. The old switcheroo, the old switcheroni. Egypt, the election. Apparently the guy running against Sisi voted for him in the booth because he couldn't see his name and not vote for him. This whole election is a Shah Monsieur. Edit. I'm not Egyptian. I just live here. Australia, our cricket team are a bunch of dirty cheats. Children are getting abducted here in the Philippines. People say it's organ harvesting and it's honestly quite scary. I'm seriously surprised the government is mum about this. Kids, teens, and elderly are being abducted either for organs or to beg on the streets. My grandmother had dementia and was a wanderer. She was lost for 3 weeks. We found her, her face beaten beyond recognition, and the people who lead her to us was after the reward money. That was 15 years ago. The government is not doing anything about this. Germany, Carles Puigdemont, former Catalan president, arrested. Discussions about the obligation to extradite to Spain. Also probably the biggest news story here in Spain. New Zealand tried to find some Russian spies to expel, but apparently we aren't important enough to have any. Somewhere in New Zealand there's a Russian spy having a little heart attack every time he reads this. France, either the terrorist attack in a supermarket or this old lady who survived the Holocaust. Killed in her own home because she was Jewish. In 2018. Edit. Killed not kill. Greater than old lady who survived the Holocaust. Kill in her own home because she was Jewish. In 2018. Killed by who? Edit. Jesus Christ. My most upvoted comment is a simple question. I found the secret to Reddit karma, everyone. This is awesome. Could we do a weekly of this? Edit. Thanks for the gold, stranger. I always wondered what this did. Now I finally can figure it out. Awesome. Sweden, a psychopathic Danish inventor, allegedly murdered a Swedish journalist. Edit. Yes. The story is really old. It's the trial that is getting the media's attention. On a home-built submarine. The case is basically a real-life episode of The Bridge. It was clearly a suicide. She tried to pin it on him by cutting herself up into small parts and dumping herself in weighted down bags afterwards. Watching BBC Breakfast News and #1 stories, countries around the world expelling Russian diplomatic staff. Lol. In New Zealand headlines, we would expel Russian spies but we can't find any. Ah, never change New Zealand, the world loves you. Belgium is here today. There is apparently a strike. Taxis are blocking the entrances and exits of Brussels. In reality there are only around 650 taxis, so only a few sides of Brussels are blocked. And because everybody knew it, they took the train or chose to work from home. So I'm not sure about the impact. The taximen are protesting against Uber, because Uber drivers don't pay taxes and licenses that other taxi drivers are paying, so this is disloyal competition. Last week's huge story was a huge scandal of a company called Beatz that was selling meat that had been frozen for years, and obviously rotting, to Eastern countries. Disgusting. Update. I meant Eastern countries. But I love Easter eggs and I want chocolate. In Finland, a singer was caught with crystal meth for the second time. My friend, if that's the biggest news in your country right now, I'd say you guys are doing pretty damn good. Finland is typically an alcohol drinking country and drugs are very, very negatively viewed. Moreover, this singer, Jari Salinpa, is Finland's national treasure since many decades. He's considered a total goody two-shoes and holier-than-thou. Arguably Finland's biggest celebrity. People are shook. They simply can't believe our Jari would do something like this. Stories are emerging that he's not only using methamphetamine but is part of something bigger. He confessed he gives himself IV fluids to stay hydrated. It's not the biggest story. Much bigger is a top director #MeToo bullying story and the ill-fated health reform. But it is the biggest entertainment story. Terrorist attack with hostage crisis in one of Tribes supermarket near Carcassonne, south of France. Last Friday, a Lieutenant Colonel, Arnaud Beltrame, switched itself with a woman the terrorist was using as a human shield. Beltrame managed to keep the special forces what was going on inside the supermarket, and thanks to that, they could launch an assault on the guy when he decided to shoot Beltrame. They killed the guy. Beltrame died the next day. Tomorrow there will be a national homage to Beltrame. Till Carcassonne is a real place. Seriously though, terrorism is deplorable and Beltrame is a hero. Austria former government established a law to ban smoking from restaurants, bars, etc. The new voted government abolished said law before it came to effect, although the majority of the population was against the abolition. Venezuela, the country with the biggest oil reserves, is about to shut down 3 refineries due to lack of crude oil to process. SMH. Venezuela is quite literally falling apart. New Zealand, our prime minister is pregnant. Lol, everywhere else is doom and gloom, but in good ol' NZ life is good. Haha, I need to go live there one day. Denmark, on the 10th. The government is going to lock out basically every single worker in the state. Edit. Employed by the state. The whole country's probably gonna shut down for some time. This is because of disagreements about salary between the government and the unions. Edit. To clarify, it is basically every worker in the state. Not literally all workers. Necessary staff for hospitals and police are of course still going to work. Also, it only affects workers in the state, i.e. private companies are unaffected, although they may still be inconvenienced by the lack of public transport, etc. Still, we're talking about 400,000 plus workers. Russia, huge fire in mall that took more than 60 lives. It's mourning through all county. With our corruption situation, it was inevitable to happen somewhere. There are horrible videos of people jumping from 4th floor. Thanks Putin and government, he organized and sustained. People from Russia are saying closer to 400. Edit. To be clear, this is speculation. I'm not in Russia, and I don't know either way. This is just what I've seen people say. Yay, that's probably closer to the truth. Over 300 kids were locked in 3 theaters with no way out when they caught fire and collapsed. All families were required to sign NDAs before seeing their children. People who worked in office buildings were barred from recording the incident. Bystanders reported seeing an unending stream of bodies being taken out. City morgues are over capacity. Emergency crews waited and ignored the fire for too long. It's turning out to look like a complete cover-up on the part of the Russian government. The only way this could be any more stereotypical of the Russians is if it turns out the theater was burned down by Spetsnaz operatives. Removed. Godspeed. Germany, not exactly now but rather a few weeks back but still ongoing. A male nurse murdered approximately 200 people by injection medication to perform CPR to show how good he was at it. Countless graves have been exhumed and investigation is still not finished. Body count may even be significantly higher. These are just the ones known about. Iranian here. The government wants us to support domestic production, even though most of it is hot garbage. They've already started passing some shitty laws banning certain imports. If they want this so much, why don't they at least try to make good products? Common A, bro. I swear people will buy products if they're good. No need for all this shady shit. Serious question for you. Is satellite TV banned in Iran? I seem to recall a post a while back about how creative people were getting at hiding their dish receivers from prying eyes. Parliament passed a law banning some satellite stations. It's not enforced though most people have satellites. Botswana. Biggest retail supermarket branch chain workers are on strike for low wages. The company complies with minimum wage laws though, so we shall see what happens. Australian cricket team can't play by the rules. Maldives here. Lot of politicians getting arrested over stupid charges, including former president, dictator of 30 years also jailed. Cutting down trees in the name of development, to just name a few things. TBH. Go to Twitter and check out #Maldives in crisis. There's a lot of drama there. 1 month ago, an investigative journalist Jan Kuciak and his fiancée Martina Kuznarova were murdered in their home. He was investigating our main governing party ties to Italian mafia. Whole month was about this. Huge protests every Friday and calling our corrupted Prime Minister up. Robert Fico, who is also connected to the article Kuciak was writing. Now we are voting, assembling. AKA government agreed to Assembly 1. After our president shot down the previous suggestions, there was an official public voting. A new government, which looks entirely shitty, because it's still the same party. And we have a new prime minister with an Italian surname who is obvious puppet for the one we just got rid of. This thing doesn't happen here in Slovakia. We are super enraged. The protests to remove the Prime Minister Fico and Kalinak, the Minister of the Interior, were huge. The biggest since 1989. Edit. Not murdered. Edit. Added Martina's name as she needs to be remembered too. They were both only 27. Cambridge Analytica, UK. India. 39 Indians got killed by terrorists in Iraq. Government promises to get the bodies back to India ASAP. China. We just had a new emperor. But does he have the mandate of heaven? That is the real question. Sources say yes, until he doesn't anymore. St. Lucia. I hadn't read any news about my country in a while before this post. So it's currently 0522 and I'm weeping in the dark. Our two-story cultural center has burned to the ground on Sunday. Priceless artifacts, paintings, documents, projects, turned to ash. The director, Patrick Anthony, came on a news clip and said, "Remember, the Folk Research Center started Yon and Kwayol, our Cultural Heritage Month, where we dress traditionally, revive dance and music, and play traditional games. And Yon and Kwayol cannot be burnt by flames. I'm absolutely beside myself with sadness. Go to your local museums. Record stories of your old folks. Get those old family photos and scan them into Google. God, do anything to preserve your history, because it might be taken from you tomorrow." Our Prime Minister met Ed Sheeran and made him tea and scones. I have literally seen this on the news 3 times today. On New Zealand. You guys are a breath of fresh air in all of the shittiness that is happening in the world at the moment. Our stories must have people wondering what we even do here. There's another viral NZ news story at the moment that has the whole country looking for an alpaca. A blind alpaca lost its sister and there was something about it dying if the sister is not found. So my entire Facebook feed is people looking for the alpaca. It's a wholesome story, but we literally have no other news, so that's what it is, I guess. Brexit's effect on Irish borders. Edit. Change the borders to border. I'm more of an Egypt than a gobshite. the repealing of the Eighth Amendment to legalize abortion in certain circumstances is the big one too. Turbulent times indeed. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.